Welcome to WiredToHunt's Whitetail How-Tos, where we provide a step-by-step tutorial for one important deer hunting task.
Today I want to talk about something that's really important and almost nobody does, and that's paying attention to whether your bow has changed from the end of summer shooting sessions throughout the season. It might not pop up in 5 seasons, or it might cost you a buck. We get after it pretty hard in the summer. We like to practice shoot a lot. You know, the season hits and you just don't have the time, and a lot of people just kind of go, you know, I'm not going to shoot 100 arrows a week. Might shoot a couple warm-up shots before I go out or something like that, but the frequency in which we practice usually goes down pretty quickly. The problem with that is throughout the season, we put our bows through a lot of different stuff in the elements, you know, sitting in your hot truck, and there's the potential for things to change on your bow. And if you don't know something changed and then you haven't shot in a couple weeks, when that buck walks in, you hit 4 inches high and, you know, hit that void spot or hit him in the shoulder or something like that, and you're like, what went wrong? What happened? And so what I do that's kind of cheap insurance against some of that, I use my phone and my bow, and if my bow is set up really well, it's shooting darts, you can shoot tight groups, there's no wonkiness in your arrow flight that you see, you're set. When you're at that moment and you're confident you're there, what I like to do is I look at all the things on my bow that might change. And 2 simple ones are, you could bump your sight and move it a little bit. That doesn't happen really often, but rest can be a little bit prone to some wear and tear and maybe some movement. And so I take my phone and I take a picture of my hash marks on my rest before the season. And so I know exactly horizontally where my rest was and exactly vertically. And I dump those pictures into just a folder on my phone because I always have my phone with me somewhere, whether it's in my truck or I take it hunting with me. If something goes a little wrong on my shot, I can check that right away. I can look at my bow and go, oh, the hash mark's here. And I look at that photo and okay, that hasn't moved, what's next? It might be something else like a high or a low impact. That could be because your peep sight moved. If your peep sight's not tied in correctly or your string is 5 years old and there's a little bit of stretch to it, what you won't notice is that peep sight moving just a tiny bit. You practice and you just compensate for that a little bit. And now when you draw on that buck, you will not notice that peep sight has moved up some. But what that's gonna do, you're gonna adjust your anchor, you're gonna adjust your head position. And what that's gonna do is change your point of impact. You don't want that. You can check that one way, which is to just draw your bow with your eyes closed, open your eyes, and is your peep sight perfectly aligned? I'm not talking twisted, because it might not come back perfectly square for different reasons, but I'm talking height-wise. Is it perfect? Because if it's not, something probably changed. I also tend to take a tape measure and I measure how high up off of the top of my serving is my peep. And I just take a picture of it before the season, just like those hash marks on my rest. And that way, I just got a quick reference point, no matter where I'm at, whether I'm at home hunting whitetails or I'm on the road hunting elk or anything like that, I can get that back to right where I need it if I have that picture and that measurement really quickly. That's an easy fix. Little stuff like that matters. The same thing, you might want to measure from the bottom of your serving to right in the dead center of your string loop, where the throat of your nock is gonna be. Take a picture of that. You have that now, so maybe your string loop slid up or down, or your serving's wearing out a little bit and something moved a little bit. You might be able to fix it on your own really quickly, or you'll at least be able to diagnose something maybe ahead of time before it happens when you're in the woods and that buck walks in. Just pay attention to stuff like that. They might not come into play in 5 seasons or 7 seasons, but when one of those things goes wrong, then it really sucks. And you don't want that to happen. So this is just cheap insurance. And I just use my phone, take those pictures, and I store them in a folder and say, you know, 2022 prime inline or whatever I'm shooting. And I always have those reference points. I always have a tape measure in my truck and a set of Allen wrenches. And so those basic fixes, they can happen really quick in camp or on the road or at home or wherever. And it's just a peace of mind thing. So you're not gonna screw up a shot on a buck when you didn't have to.
If you want more whitetail hunting advice, please listen to the Wired to Hunt podcast and the Wired to Hunt Foundation's podcast, and we'll give you everything you needed to hear about deer.